She picked up her phone and climbed into a stranger's car, trying to get into the city. What she didn't know was that she was leaving behind a trail that would haunt a nation and leave her family with only a voice recording and bones in a field. This is the heartbreaking story of Amber Tuccaro, a 20-year-old Indigenous mother whose voice was silenced not just by a predator, but by a justice system that failed her at every turn. Before we begin, if you believe that every missing woman deserves to be searched for, that every family deserves answers, and that every voice deserves to be heard, subscribe to our channel. Together, we can keep stories like Amber's alive. Amber Alyssa Tuccaro was born on January 3, 1990, in Fort McMurray, Alberta. A proud member of the Mikisew Cree First Nation, her roots were deeply embedded in her Indigenous heritage. Amber grew up in a loving family with 4 brothers. After her parents' separation, she spent significant time with her brother Paul and his partner Judy Cardinal, who played pivotal roles in her upbringing. Known for her infectious laughter and love for music, Amber was the heart of her family gatherings. She often joked about becoming famous, a sentiment that would later take on a haunting significance. At 19, Amber embraced motherhood with the birth of her son, Jacob. Her family recalls her unwavering dedication to him, describing her as a protective and nurturing mother. Amber aspired to provide a stable home for Jacob. She was saving diligently, aiming to secure a place they could call their own. In August 2010, Amber met a woman named Evangeline McLean. Evangeline invited Amber and Jacob on a trip to Edmonton, citing a medical appointment. Despite her mother Vivian's reservations, Amber saw it as a brief getaway. The trio checked into a motel in Nisku, near Edmonton. The first day passed uneventfully, with Amber maintaining regular contact with her mother. On August 18, 2010, Amber's communication with her mother ceased. Concerned, Vivian reached out to Evangeline, who claimed Amber had gone out for pizza and hadn't returned before we go further. If you believe stories like Amber's deserve to be heard and not brushed aside, not forgotten, take a moment to subscribe to this channel. Evangeline's story shifted multiple times from Amber going out for pizza to fetching diapers. Eventually, Evangeline left the motel, abandoning Amber's belongings. It was one of the most chilling details in the entire case, not just because of what happened, but how it was done. After Amber hadn't returned, Evangeline didn't raise the alarm. She didn't search, she didn't call the police in a panic, she didn't beg for help. Instead, she packed her things, walked out of the motel in Nisku, and went straight to the RCMP. But she didn't go to report Amber missing. No, she went to hand over Jacob, Amber's 14-month-old son, the baby Amber loved more than anything in this world. Here, Evangeline reportedly said, "He's not mine." And then she left. No explanation, no urgency, just cold detention. She abandoned Amber's belongings, her suitcase, her clothes, everything she had brought on that trip, and disappeared from Edmonton completely. The woman who had invited Amber on this spontaneous getaway, the woman who had been with her just hours before she vanished, walked away like none of it mattered. Amber was gone, and now her baby boy alone, confused, handed over to strangers in uniform, the only piece of her left behind. When Vivian reported Amber missing, the RCMP suggested she was likely out partying and would return. They delayed listing her as a missing person and removed her from the list based on unverified sightings. The RCMP publicly stated that Amber was probably not in danger, implying she had left voluntarily. These assertions lacked evidence and contradicted her family's understanding of her character. If this part of Amber's story is making you feel something: anger, heartbreak, frustration, you're not alone. These are the stories we tell here. The ones that matter. The ones that need a voice. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It helps more people hear the truth, and it honors victims like Amber, who deserved so much more. The RCMP's investigation was criticized for its sluggishness and lack of adherence to protocol. An independent review later deemed the investigation deficient. Despite having a 17-minute recording of a phone call between Amber and an unidentified man, the RCMP failed to act promptly. The recording wasn't released to the public until 2 years later. On September 1, 2012, human remains were discovered in Leduc County. Dental records confirmed they belonged to Amber. The discovery devastated Amber's family, who had held on to hope. They criticized the RCMP for their handling of the case and the delay in identifying the remains. Amber's case became emblematic of the broader crisis of missing and murdered. Indigenous women and girls, MIG, in Canada and her family became vocal advocates, demanding justice and systemic change. The case highlighted the need for improved investigative protocols, cultural sensitivity, and accountability within law enforcement agencies. Amber Tuccaro's story is a stark reminder of the systemic failures that continue to plague our society. Her voice, captured in a haunting recording, calls out not just for help, but for justice. Join us in honoring Amber's memory by advocating for change. Amber Tuccaro was just 20 years old. A mother, a daughter, a sister, a friend. She laughed too loud. She danced when no one was watching. She talked about getting a place of her own, about raising Jacob with love and laughter and a fresh start. But someone out there took all of that away. And for years, they walked free while the RCMP delayed, dismissed, and failed at nearly every step. They didn't treat Amber's disappearance like an emergency. They didn't listen when her family begged. They erased her from the missing persons list without even confirming she was safe. And when her remains were found nearly 2 years later, discarded in a field, her voice silenced forever, the RCMP admitted they could have done more. But by then, it was too late. The truth is, Amber didn't just go missing, she was failed. Failed by a system that too often turns its back on Indigenous women. Failed by investigators who saw a stereotype instead of a daughter worth fighting for. Today, Amber's voice lives on in a chilling audio clip recorded during her final moments. Her words, "You better not be taking me anywhere I don't want to go," are now evidence. But more than that, they're a cry for justice. If you're watching this and her story shook something in you, don't let that feeling fade. Share her name. Speak her truth. And if you're new here, hit subscribe, because stories like Amber's deserve to be told fully, fearlessly, and with the dignity they were denied in life. Justice for Amber Tuccaro isn't just about catching a killer. It's about making sure no other Indigenous woman is ever ignored again.